Good morning, Indira. Live, breathe, believe.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you.
Awesome. We just had a bit of a chat because we like to kind of debrief a bit, previous conversations, upcoming conversation, the upcoming conversation, journaling. And I teed this up at the end of the last chat as we're hand and heart align when we pay the right attention. I love that. But what's better is what comes after that, which is letting your heart speak.
Yeah.
So, Indira, are you ready to let your heart speak?
Oh, all the time.
Awesome. There we go.
I don't always do it, but I'm always ready.
See, that's the funny thing. It's like, I'm ready to do it, but is now it? Now the moment? No, now is the moment. But hey, it's cool. We're going to warm up and jump straight into it. So journaling. So Indira, I mentioned to you that for me, journaling, I think is quite simple. I open up my laptop or I open up my iPad and I jot some notes down in Evernote and yes, I'm thinking this or on my phone. I don't think journaling is that. I think people maybe misconstrue what journaling is. It's not even maybe the dear diary today, so-and-so did so-and-so. Indira, take us away. Tell me about journaling.
Okay, and we should frame this up as the sixth element of the 8 elements as well at some point, but just briefly, journaling is a way of getting down on paper. Through hand is the preference, we'll talk about that in a minute as well, to be able to actually bring some awareness to our lives. And so, there's a variety of types of journals we could keep. We could keep a gratitude journal. That's important and, very popular these days, thankfully. We could be just simply capturing what happened during the day, but it's a really great way to even look at, there's a lot of memes now, a lot of truisms and spiritual sayings you can use to actually think, well, what does that mean to me? I love this saying. Why do I love this saying? And then another form of journal could be, okay, I've looked at my day, I've looked at what happened at work or in relationships. What do I need to reflect on about this to make it even better? And so then we can also look at dreams. I've got a dream journal. Someone gave me a gorgeous dream journal. So then it's, what do I want in my life? What am I dreaming of? What do I want for my future? How would my ideal life look? And we can also use it to really sort of discover ideas and create. So it could be a mind map journal of this is how everything fits together. These are all the things I'm thinking, how do they link? Or it could be drawing and poetry and words that you just want to capture. So there's lots of different ways that you can actually get things out on paper. And I think the essence of it for me is it's absolutely private. This is just for you. If you want to share, choose what you share. You might want to burn them before you die. But it's a way of having incredibly private time with yourself and finding your truth.
I love that. I think because time is precious. And I even asked you when we last spoke, and so I do want to do service to the prior elements that we've discussed here in a second. Indira, how do we find time to do all this? And so we've spoken about 5 elements so far: creative visualization, intention, mindfulness, energy. I hope I'm not missing one.
Contemplation.
Thank you, which is the last one.
Yes.
And, I asked you the question, like, finding time to do it, especially as I joke, some of us are white belts here. You're a triple black belt in this. And getting
lots of journals.
Lots of journals, lots of belts, lots of experience. But what I find powerful is in the last week or two, as I've been talking to people, naturally some of these come out. Like, have you visualized it? Or, you should think about this a bit deeper, go beyond just. And so it's funny is like, as we're talking about it and doing it, I'm naturally finding a way to bring it up and then do it, hoping that one day it becomes consciously super competent, as we've spoken, which will be a conversation for another day. But going back to journaling as the quote unquote 6th element, maybe we should start connecting a few of the dots for those that have followed us up until now, or for those that are interested to go backwards and listen to the other elements.
Yeah, why are we talking about journaling?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So journaling is a way of concretizing even further the things that we have wanted to put into place right from when we started to visualize what it was that we were wanting for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about bringing our intention in. Journaling is a great way to check in on our intention. And it's adding to our intention when we're writing it down. And then we talked about mindfulness and bringing the mind. What state of mind are we in? Is our mind really supporting us enough to be able to bring that visualization into reality? And then we started looking at how do we need to bring our energy to this? What sort of energy will it take? Mm-hmm. And are we tapping into source energy to help make this happen? Because really, we're going into cooperation with something greater than ourselves. Mm-hmm. And again, journaling helps us tap into that. So we're always working at those two levels, almost like as above, so below, of our material world and our spiritual world. And it helps to bring those two together really beautifully. And so contemplation was go deeper with thinking, ask the right questions, be sure that you are manifesting, creating what you really want, and that you're on track for that. So anything, this is the get rid of the interference, you know, the performance equals potential minus interference plus action. Ooh. So do you want me to say that again?
I think you should, because I think that's something I want to write it down, and I'm going to share this because this is go ahead, say that again. Performance.
The formula that I use in coaching was taught myself by my own coaching trainers is performance equals potential minus interference plus action divided by the 4 S's. I would call them 5 S's actually, which is all to do with our own inner state, but we won't go into that today, but that's to do with our presence. So all underlying that is our presence and what we bring to this. And again, the 8 elements is designed to help you tap into and bring forward that really beautiful, authentic presence. So this is about removing interference. Contemplation helps you remove anything that's getting in the way of that performance and your potential and getting to the right actions. So it's a very potent and powerful way of working and processing. And again, this is about self-trust and self-mastery, because we can't be relying on other people to do it for us. We're the ones who have to bring it forward to help others do the same. As a leader and a leader of your own life, you need resources and systems and processes to help you do this. So the journaling is another step towards really ensuring that your life, the 24 hours a day that you have, is totally focused on the very best things you could be doing for yourself. And you're bringing your best, your own truth forward as well.
One thing we've talked about in the past is the RAS.
Yes.
From a science perspective, from a brain perspective, as we write, it activates, it listens.
It does.
Maybe share, have you a typical example from your side where either you've written something down or you've journaled and it activated and something happened as a result of it, or maybe to a coachee?
I think generally speaking, I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I think what happens quite frequently for me is that when I journal and I'm getting to just write my thoughts, it might not be something all that heavy, if you like. Doesn't have to be intense, heavy work. Mm-hmm. But if I'm really contemplating, what is this about? I've got a question about this. Often I will find that some insight starts to come, mm-hmm. and next thing I know, I've realised that it's actually showing up in my daily life. I'm more aware of it. And that means the RAS has been listening, the reticular activating system in our brain. It's a part of the brain. Pardon?
I was just about to ask you for the acronym.
Reticular activating system. It's a physical part of the brain. This is real brain science. Is always trying to match things up for us. So it hears and sees and listens to what it is that we're focusing on. And this is why focus is so powerful. it thinks, oh, okay, I'll go match up to that. Oh, I'll point that out to you. So if we're afraid of something, next thing we're noticing all the things that match that fear. If we really want something, you talked about Maseratis. Oh, I keep seeing Maseratis everywhere now.
Me too.
That is the res. And I'm getting really picky now because it's about which color. It might get down to which model soon. So, but it's like, oh, there's a black one. Oh, there's that gorgeous cobalt blue one. I saw purple. It's like I'm seeing them in my streets around me, right? So the Raz says, oh, you want that? I will bring it to you. I will help you notice it, and I will therefore show you it's available to you. Do you want it? You said that you were interested in this. I'm showing it to you.
So
I love the Raz.
no, well, and that's, so now we talk about one part of the brain.
Yeah.
Talk about, typically, I think people feel that wisdom, intelligence, knowledge lies in the brain. But when we started, we talked about the heart and, still mind and a wise heart. So I want to ask you about, when we talk about the symbolism of heart and hand coming together in purposeful action, and that's a powerful one, as you say it in your book. Can you maybe just elaborate a bit more on the power of the heart? Because we even talked about last week in contemplation, that action that comes from the heart is the truest wisdom. It's the truest knowledge. Help me understand how journaling unlocks and really puts that wisdom on paper.
Okay, so let's go back to the brain for a moment. What we do know through neuroscience is that we learn better when we write, rather than type. We retain information longer and we take it in more deeply. We actually learn more if we're writing by hand. And so the same really, for me, I feel the same is for the heart, that when we write, there's nothing in the way other than our own emotions or our lack of awareness. There's nothing in the way of that wisdom that's coming through from the heart. So really it's like the three voices that we've spoken about in the past. You've got what the brain is doing and just dumping and firing and images it's creating, those 500 thoughts a minute. And you've got the mind that's actually working with, dealing with what's the meaning of all of that. And it is listening to higher self. So the mind is directly connected to source through our hearts. So the power of that is when we're journaling and we're writing, we're more likely to be tapping into our truth, our deeper values that all sit within our own heart. But also we tap into the source of inspiration. And that's like creating beautiful music or writing a gorgeous poem or coming up with an amazing story for a novel or a play that we've never thought of before. This is where creativity lies as well. Mm-hmm. So when you journal and you're starting to question or even just follow ideas, it feels miraculous when it happens. It's like this magic aha that comes up, that the Raz can then go and start to help organising to have it, into making it happen for you in the material world. It's that beautiful alchemy that happens between, as I said, our spiritual inner self, our inner life, and our external life. And I'm all about living from the inside out. This is how you do it.
I find the practice of journaling very powerful. And I'm someone who is who actually, I've only recently started writing, well, not writing again. I've gotten rid of like notepads and everything. I use my iPad now on my stylus, and I'm actually literally writing in that. But what I've noticed is in the past, when I've had, like, let's say, altercations or discomfort with colleagues, peers, friends, I type it out. And a mutual friend of ours actually said to me, there's a power in like actually putting pen to paper. And what you're saying now, clearly there's a science to it as much as just the ability to do it. And I share this with you because if it is important for people to write, I think we need to embrace it, especially as we go into a digital age where people feel, oh no, typing out my journal. I think of Doogie Howser, MD, back in the day, ironic I say that, back in the 80s where his daily journal was typing what he learned. But Indira, I want to come back to the present and how who do you know who keeps a journal, who writes in it, who actually does this, and maybe how they found it to be effective for them?
Yeah, sure. I've got a couple of examples, 3 actually. One, I know, fabulous entrepreneur. He walks around with a journal under his arm all day, and he puts a lot of things in that. He captures ideas, thoughts, feelings. He'll capture when he sees something that needs to be fixed, and everything is in that journal. And I know that he's a very aware, deep thinker, and he's phenomenal in what he can create in the world and how quickly he can do that. And it's all captured in his journal. I've worked with someone who would take time over a cup of tea when he was having a break, and he would have his journal out and he would be reflecting on the meeting he's just been in or something that needs to be worked on ahead of time. And possibly, I don't know, because it's his private journal, that he's probably also processing what's he learning about other people and his relationship with them, or how he's feeling at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a really typical example that I've found in coaching is that very often a coachee will say, I don't have time to journal, because I ask my coachees to keep a reflections journal and send reflections to me of what they're prepared to share. But I do say, please take time to reflect on the session, capture things that you want to keep. And again, it's about, coaching happens in the space between coaching sessions as well as in the coaching session. So this is when the processing is going on at that deeper internal and semi-conscious, unconscious level as well. And often what they will say is, by the end, you know what, this is what I needed, was focus on myself, take some time to reflect. But actually what's come out of that is I've got more time. I'm making better choices. I'm having better conversations. I'm seeing more clearly. And things that you don't need to be doing fall away. They just fall away. Or you find ways to say, actually, I'm going to give that to someone else because they're better at it than me anyway. And it's not part of what I should be doing in order to progress.
So now when you, again, we go back to the approach to journaling, and I go back to the thought of, putting time aside, and it doesn't have to be an hour. It could be less. I think it's just starting to journal. So if someone can actually just, take a pen, take a piece of paper and start, how would you invite them to start doing that? What would be the approach you would encourage people to take to start journaling?
Great question. I think for me, it's usually evening, and it's usually if I'm aware that something is sitting with me, it's getting my attention, or I'm feeling a certain way, and then I'll think, all right, I'll go have a think about this, and I'll use it to reflect on from what I know from my own Eastern tradition, wisdom tradition kind of philosophy as well. And what is that teaching me about this? How is this everyday thing going to be, how can I elevate my view of it? How can I learn from this that's going to actually help me develop as a person? How can I do things better? How could I be better about this? So then it can be like a contemplation question was, what do I need to know about this? So I could use it to contemplate. In the morning, sometimes after meditation, and I've got to write one down today, was something happened just as I was about to sit for meditation, and I thought, oh, that's amazing. It was actually to do with what's the attitude I'm bringing to my meditation? Who am I being right now? And I felt a really clear kind of image sensation of, this is not me at my best, actually. And I thought, all this other stuff really doesn't matter. Just be your own pure self right now. And I need to write that down. That was a great learning, because I will do that the next time I meditate. I'll be more aware. What's my attitude when I sit down to meditate? Actually, am I bringing my own pure self to meditation? So I could write then. Sometimes I just grab the journal because I've had an insight. You know how you get those ahas when you don't expect them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, oh, I don't want to lose that. Oh my gosh, that's great. And it might just be some simple words or a statement, but it's like suddenly I have an insight and I want to capture it, and I'll just quickly write it down. I also capture dreams, because sometimes dreams are very potent and meaningful, and I want to write the dream down because I know what the message is. So I'll write what the dream is and then what I think the message is. So really, it's up to you. You know, like I said earlier, all the different types of journals you can keep. A great way is to just start writing down all the things you're grateful for in that day, from that day. I tend to do that just going to sleep, and I list it in my head. So I'm not writing it down as such.
Well, and this is where I want to make sure, personally for me, journaling has been a process of, like I mentioned already once, is if something made me feel uncomfortable, I kind of jot it down, like what was it and why did it make me feel uncomfortable? So in the moment. But what I've also done is, and I've advised this to people, if they've got a lot on their mind, especially, and they can't sleep at night, somebody gave me the instruction of, hey, keep a notepad and a piece of paper. Keep your pen and a piece of paper and notepad at your nightstand. And then in the middle of the night, if you do wake up, just jot it down. Like, what was it that really put the thought on paper? I've also had conversations with people who are struggling with the decision. I'm like, well, pros and cons. And they're like, oh yeah, I've thought about it. I'm like, no, put it down on paper. In fact, when I had to make a big decision a couple of weeks ago, first thing I woke up in the morning and I took out my iPad and my stylus, if it counts. And I actually drew out and sketched and wrote the pros and cons of the decision I was looking to make. And having it on paper, and I think you even mentioned in your book, it's like, it gives you something measurable. You can look at it and go, okay, so this is where I was and this is where I am. Has there been progression or not?
Yeah. And in terms of intention and dreams, you know, a great place to start is just start designing your life.
Yeah.
Just start writing how you want it to be, who you want to be, and let yourself dream. When we're stressed, it's really difficult to dream because we think we're caught in all the stuff that we don't want. And the way I've shifted myself out of that is even to get some magazines and start looking at circling, dog-earing the page, whatever, tear it out. Things I really like. And they could be really simple things like clothes or home furnishings or somewhere to travel for a holiday. But you can actually start to build that. And dream board's another way to do that visually. But in your journal, just if things aren't as good as you want them to be, then just start writing down how you want it to be. Start dreaming, because you're not having to commit to it if you don't want it. It's just explore it. And then, as you say, from there, you can plan, which of these things do I want? Am I prepared to commit to? Maybe start putting a plan together on how you want to get them or when you want to get them. And then you've got something to measure against as well, because the quickest way to calm down your whole nervous system is to see where you are making progress. So journaling is another great way. Most of the time, I don't read back over a lot of things because a lot of it is just probably not worthy of being read. I hope a lot of it is, but a lot of it is like you don't want to go and eat again the stuff that you've already purged. So again, you know, this is another great way of just emptying the brain, emptying all those negative feelings as well. And then, okay, what am I going to do to move forward and be happier?
What I want to continue then on that is the importance of breathing. Because I feel that something you've also mentioned in the book as part of the process of journaling is, like you mentioned already, hey, write things down, the time of day, I even like after meditating, I used to had a bad habit, so to speak. When I would meditate, I'd start having ideas. I'd stop meditating, I'd jot them down and continue meditating. And I was like, finish meditating, pull out that pen and paper, and then jot it
And
down.
then,
And that actually,
yeah, it is better to do that. Yeah.
it truly is. It's like, whoa, don't break my Zen, don't break my flow.
Yeah.
But the importance of breathing, why is that in there? Why is it important to like take a few breaths and breathe prior to or during your journaling?
Well, again, the breath is the quickest way to calm and center yourself. And that means that the witness can actually come on board, that part of you that sees and knows everything, that wise self is always there. It's not that it wasn't watching or listening or trying to guide you, but by breathing and centering yourself and calming down breath. If we get into hormones and things, by breathing deeply and steadily, you drop your cortisol levels very quickly. So the feel-good hormones can come up. But the most immediate thing for me is that by breathing, and I did it, I said, just give me a moment before we started. I did the same thing. It centers and focuses so that you're actually asking the questions you want. You're not caught in all the stuff you don't want to be in. The breath is really, really powerful, and it is life. So when you breathe, you're actually getting in touch with your own life force as well, and you're getting as close to source as you're going to be, really.
I love that. The reason why I find it incredibly powerful, Indira, is, it's funny how we talk about meditation. We generally talk about thinking and the traffic that goes on in our brain. I think just to breathe, slow that traffic down, slow those thoughts down, slow yourself down, is important, because then when you want to write, you can only write as fast as you can. I think sometimes we joke, like, I think I'm writing faster than my mind is thinking, or I'm thinking faster than I'm able to write. And it's like, when you breathe, it's just like you bring mind, heart, hand into a balance to then be able to capture what you're thinking or what you're feeling. You mentioned,
sorry.
No, please go on.
What you're going to say. I just think that's a perfect example of what we were demonstrating through contemplation last week, is that you just want to empty the brain and you want to actually still the mind. You want to calm the mind so it can focus on the thing that matters, and allow source to speak, as we said, allow the witness to show you the way. So if you think that thinking is the only way to get an answer, you won't like doing this work. Because it's not about the brain. We can change the brain. We know we can rewire the brain. However, what we want is deep feeling and a deeper experience of life. And so we also know, and I trust, that real wisdom comes from within. And then I can use my mind to start to work out what I'm going to do with that. And I can use my brain to help organize all of that as well. And we don't know exactly what the whole connection is, but I think it's really important to make the distinction between the brain, the mind, and self, the higher self or source.
No, and again, when you mention the true wisdom comes from within, you mentioned the entrepreneur who has the notebook under his arm. It's almost like, if you're jotting things down the way you wrote it, I love how you write it in the book. It's, your wisest teacher is actually just there
in the book under your arm.
Yeah, and
exactly.
So you mentioned so many benefits of journaling, at least in the way that we've discussed it, not just about Dear Diary, because I think that's the common stereotype, right?
Yes.
We talk about the benefits. It's an opportunity to bring clarity, to reflect, to be creative. People can draw, they can sketch, they can doodle as they're doing it. It's not like they're attached just to words. It brings meaning, it brings intention, it calms you. And then, one thing it does is it brings insight, as you've told me, based on hindsight, which then leads you to foresight.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can elaborate a bit on that, because I think that's something that maybe people, when you connect those dots, you're like, it's that aha moment.
Well, we've only got the moment, right? We've only got where we are right now. The past died a moment ago, if not yesterday. And the future, in essence, is still a fantasy, but it's a good fantasy if we choose to create it the way we want to. But that creative power is in the moments. So we can sit in the moment with our journal and go into hindsight to clear anything that our unconscious, we're really telling our unconscious to clear that, it's of no value anymore. Let's just keep the things that really are of value from what we've experienced, of what's helpful. We've got the moment to get some insight into that. And that allows us then to say, well, in looking into the future, to later today, tomorrow, 5 years' time, my foresight can now come into play. So for me, the power of journaling is that getting some insight through hindsight, and then that insight can help me also have some foresight about what's possible and anticipate any of that interference that might be coming up, or we can anticipate might be there, and we can already plan ahead for how we're going to handle that if it comes up. But we've only ever got the moment, and that's why for me the 8 elements are so powerful and important, because they help us be in that moment and have that direct connection. So when this entrepreneur's walking around with his journal under his arm, what he's really saying to himself is, I can stay connected to source all the time in everything I do. And he achieves phenomenal things in very, very good ways.
You know, I last 2 days I had moments where I felt weak. Moments where I was just kind of like, I don't feel right. And I think I mentioned to you, like, I feel like whether it was something I ate, whether it was a food hangover, whether it was like having a beer. But what I do realize the power, as you said, of journaling is I can actually jot that down. And then if that happens again, I can kind of flip back to it and go, okay, hang on, what was it that I learned from that moment? What meaning did it have? And therefore, how can I use that insight to give me foresight of, okay, so the next time it happens, or when it's happening in that moment, what do I do, or what should I do differently?
Yeah,
and
so you're
it's
not
like,
weakened, so you don't go back into that weakened state.
exactly. And again, it's like I didn't need to seek out that wisdom, you know, it was within me. And something we've always talked about is how journaling, how we're taking steps through the 8 elements in order to develop greater self-trust as part of self-mastery.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I was just going to ask you, just as some closing thoughts, like, so tell me how have you found, either personally or through an example, someone developing further self-trust by journaling?
Well, I think there's certainly a recent example for me with the coachee, but I think generally speaking, that self-trust shows up a lot in having the time for self and reflecting. And the longing is always there for personal power and for greater self-reliance and self-efficacy and agency, So really, this is self-realization. And we are wanting to realize ourselves. We want to bring our potential out and realize it and put it into action as high performance for us. So this is all about clearing the channels for that, just clearing anything that's in the way, bypassing all that conditioning, the social hypnosis we talk about, and truly tapping in to that flow. It unleashes the flow of your own inner energy. So examples are many, really, and for me, that's absolutely how it works. So when I'm feeling weakened, I don't have an excuse anymore. I need to stop and ask questions about what is going on. What do I need to do to actually feel more empowered again? And journaling helps me do that.
Indira, I was just going to ask you, just before I kind of recap a few things, I just want to ask you, do you have any closing thoughts from your side, whether it be about the elements we've discussed so far, or now with the new edition of journaling as part of that array, before we get to the next 2 elements and sessions?
just feeling really excited about the whole potential and opportunity and possibility of our own greatness just flooding out of us, and living that, you know. And we're allowed to. It is who we are. So the quickest way to clear anything out of the way, life speeds up, actually. Life for me, when I started doing these practices, I mean, it's all about getting still and calming down and getting centered and spending less time running around and things like that. But my life sped up, and I was doing more. I was able to achieve more. I had more energy. I had more enthusiasm, and the things that were no longer truly serving me just left my life. And some of that was a bit painful, but it was all for the better. So trust, I think it's about trust that your values are sitting there, trust what you value, and choose that, allow that to be your life in, you know, in a beautiful, glorious picture.
You know, it's funny you say that about like looking at values. I actually, because again, I go back to the whole digitizing of journaling and note taking. I actually opened up and found some Dear Diary moments I journaled on my computer back in 2003.
Wow.
And it's funny, I did it intentionally because I wanted to share it with the person that I was journaling about. So it wasn't, in my opinion, honest journaling, because there was an underlying motive, and let's say not a genuine motive. But I never, I did share it with that person, but that's neither here nor there. That's maybe a topic for another conversation. But when I read what I wrote, I was just kind of like, that was the person I was.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when I was in an unhealthy relationship, having ideas and expectations and again, disgenuine motivations. And I was lying there with my now girlfriend, and I was sharing it with her, and, you know, I was able to open it up to her. And she was kind of like, wow, that's who you were. That's what you were like. That's what you did. And I was just like, yeah. And I share that with you and with the group because, you know, I think the process now for journaling for me is different. It's kind of how you raised it. It's like the Anil, hey, just take a deep breath, calm down, take out a pen, piece of paper, and just jot it down. And I know I do it right now with my iPad and stylus, but even just doing that has helped me capture, as you said, ideas, thoughts, but it's something that I can go back to. And I think the way that you've brought it to life, I think is beautiful, because I've never thought of it the way you have. That, you know, your wisest teacher is there, you know, under your arms. The fact that journaling can actually provide a clean slate, that, you know, it's a great opportunity to have hindsight, bringing insight, leading to greater foresight. And then the most powerful aspect, because it all builds up to something, is not just the equation of high performance, but it's just, you know, inner power and self-trust, and, you know, knowing yourself better. I'm just blown away by that. Like, it's something simple that you take lightly, and then when you actually, but if you give it real gravity, it has an opportunity to change your life now and forever.
Yeah, yeah. So beautifully put. Really, really, really lovely. And wouldn't we all be grateful for that? Like, this is a great gift to give ourselves. And again, it's one that others can't necessarily provide for us. You know, this is our own kind of secret gift to ourselves when we do this. And it comes back to still mind, wise heart. You know?
I was just about to say, I'm like, I was going to say that. I was like, we should wish everyone as we end this, and we're going to do it. So actually, I'm going to pause. Hang on, not there yet. I'm going to make a commitment to you. Anika gave me a beautiful little journal. I'm going to grab that, and I'm actually going to start using it. I don't do it, and I've been thinking about it, but I'm going to make a commitment that I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to do it as we said. Yeah. So it's a commitment to me to journal.
Right.
A piece of paper and a pen, and track it and see and use that beautiful gift to better, to believe, to breathe.
Yes, let's go on. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
One more closing thought is, you know, when you were talking about this is the person who you used to be, that's the point. This is the person you used to be yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
and you are a new person today. So when you talked about a clean slate, that's a really great point as well, is it does provide us with a clear slate, a clean slate. We've got literally a clean page to start processing who we want to be. And we're a work in progress, you know, and we're a beautiful work in progress. As Fred would say, we're a divine work in progress. So, and I would absolutely agree with that. So it's a way of discovering that. When you, what is it that you say your mantra is, know you to be you, right? So that's exactly what we're doing. With greater self-awareness, know ourselves, and we will be ourselves.
Love it. Which then leads to the next session, which we're going to talk about, which is on attunement.
Yes.
Stay tuned. Sorry, bad pun. Horrible. But you know, I just, as you said, I want to wish everyone, as we close, a still mind and a wise heart. Indira, thank you so much. Look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you. And yes, it'll be a bit of a stretch, the next one, attunement. So yes, tune in and be prepared.
I love it. I love it.
It might shift a few paradigms, but we'll go for it. Yeah.
That's what we're here for. I think that's something that we probably haven't talked about, but definitely it's all about shifting paradigms, but finding a way to track it. And then when you do shift, you see the difference.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, looking forward to that one as well.
Likewise. Hey, take care, Indira. Thanks, everyone.
You too. Thanks, Neil. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.